function, then it will give you what? The velocity function. And if you take higher derivatives, which is derivative of the velocity functions, we got acceleration function. Right? So those are basically talking about the rate of change of the functions. And later on, if you go into physics class, like talking about the electricity, the currents, when you take the derivative of the current equations, that will tell you the rate of change on a float, through the surface. And in chemistry, I sort of pointed out before, in chemistry, when you take the derivative of an equations, that will talk about the instantaneous rate of change of the reaction. And like this COVID-19 things, like if you talk about in biology cases, if you talk about growth functions, then they'll talk about the instantaneous rate of change of the growth. So a lot of things like come up, in the naturals and social sciences. Like another thing is in business will be when you take the derivative of the cost function, that will give you the marginal cost, okay, which is the rate of change of producing one more item. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the formula that we have talked about before, right? What is the average rate of change? That's basically changing y over change in x. And if you talk about the limit as x, delta x approaches to 0, which is the definitions of the derivatives, and that will interpret it as the instantaneous rate of change. So I will not go into every particular field of applications. I'm going to talk about something that I'm more interested in, which is taking derivatives, talking about the applications of physics, and one example is on the business part. So the very first thing that I want to do is this particular problem. So a particle is moving, according to the law of motions, and given to the position functions, which is t over 1 plus t squared. Right? That's whenever t is greater than or equal to 0. And time in second, and then position in feet. So the first thing I'm asking you is to find the velocity function. And then second is what is the velocity at a particular time. And then after that, I'll ask you a series of questions, and then next to it, I sort of shows what this mean in terms of mathematical, point of view. So we're gonna move on, all of this.